The call came just after sunset, when the sky outside the mansion had turned a deep shade of blue, and the house grew quiet enough that every small sound seemed louder than it should. Daniel Hale, a well-known businessman who rarely rushed for anything, was sitting in his office downtown when his phone buzzed with an urgent call from his maid, Elena. She never called him directly. She never sounded afraid. But tonight, her voice shook the moment he answered. "Sir, please come home. Now. She'll destroy her. Please, just hurry." For a moment, he couldn't even process her words. Destroy who? What was happening inside his home? His daughter? A guest? Someone else? Elena didn't explain. She couldn't. Her breath hitched, like something or someone was standing too close to her. Daniel stood up so quickly his chair almost toppled over, the weight of her fear landing straight on his chest. He grabbed his keys without thinking and walked out of the office as if the floor beneath him was on fire. Daniel had always trusted Elena. She wasn't just an employee. She had been with the family for years, always gentle, always calm, always patient with everyone in the house. For her to sound this terrified meant something unimaginable was going on, something that couldn't wait, something she didn't dare describe over the phone. The word "she'll destroy her" echoed in his mind again and again as he drove through the dimly lit streets. Who was she? And who was in danger? The rain began halfway home, blurring his windshield, forcing him to grip the steering wheel tight. His heart raced faster than the wipers trying to keep up. He tried calling Elena back, but the line rang without an answer, each unanswered ring tightening the knot in his stomach. He knew his daughter Hannah had been struggling lately, silent, withdrawn, carrying emotions she refused to talk about. But could she be the she? Could things have gotten so bad without him noticing? The thought alone made his chest ache. By the time he reached his neighborhood, the storm had grown stronger. Lightning cracked somewhere far off, lighting up the sky just long enough for him to see his mansion standing in eerie stillness. Every window was dark except one, Hannah's room on the second floor. A soft glow flickered there, like someone pacing back and forth, blocking the light every few seconds. Daniel slammed the car door before it fully opened and rushed toward the house, soaked within seconds. As he reached the porch, he noticed something that made him pause, a faint shadow moving behind the curtains of the living room. Slow, unsteady, almost like someone didn't want to be seen. Inside, he could hear something, whispers maybe, or muffled crying. He couldn't tell. His hand shook slightly as he reached for the door handle, bracing himself for whatever waited inside. He pushed the door open, expecting chaos, but what he saw in the first few seconds made his breath stop completely. There, in the middle of the room, stood someone he never expected to see, and right beside her, someone who shouldn't have been there at all. And that was only the beginning. Daniel didn't speak at first. He couldn't. His mind scrambled to understand what he was looking at, but everything felt slightly out of place, as if the world inside his home had shifted while he was gone. Standing in the center of the living room was Hannah, his daughter, but not the way he had left her that morning. She looked pale, almost drained, her hands clenched tightly in front of her, as if she were holding on to something invisible. Her eyes flicked toward him for just a second, then darted away, as though looking at him hurt. Beside her stood Elena, the maid who had called him with such urgency. But Elena's expression was not what he expected. She wasn't panicked anymore. She was nervous, yes, but there was something else too, something like confusion or regret. She kept glancing toward the hallway, as if someone else might appear at any moment. And then there was a third figure, a girl Daniel had never seen before, standing partially behind the couch, her posture stiff and guarded. She couldn't have been much older than Hannah. Her hair was messy, her clothes slightly damp as if she had been outside in the storm. She didn't try to hide, but she didn't take a step forward either. Her eyes stayed fixed on Hannah, almost as if she was studying her or waiting for her to do something. Daniel's heartbeat thudded painfully in his ears. "What's going on?" he asked quietly, trying to keep his voice steady. His gaze moved from Elena to Hannah, to the strange girl. None of them answered. The silence fell heavy, pressing against the walls of the room. Finally, Elena stepped closer, wringing her hands. "Sir, she just showed up," she whispered. She was at the back door. Hannah let her in. Hannah flinched slightly at her own name, as if Elena's words touched a nerve. Daniel stepped toward his daughter, but she took a step back, eyes wide. It wasn't fear of him. He could read that much. It was fear of something else. "Who is she?" Daniel asked, pointing gently toward the unfamiliar girl. The girl tensed but didn't speak. "We don't know," Elena said. "She hasn't said a word. Not since she stepped inside." Daniel glanced at the girl again. Her silence wasn't the quiet of shyness. It was a silence of someone holding a secret too big to speak out loud. Her breathing was steady, but her eyes flicked around the room with sharp awareness. She was observing everything. Him, the furniture, even the shadows near the staircase. A thin breeze drifted down the hallway, making one of the doors lightly tap against the wall. The noise made Hannah jump. Daniel noticed it immediately. Hannah had been on edge lately, but this level of fear was new. This wasn't just teenage stress or emotional overwhelm. This was deeper. Something she didn't want to talk about, something she might have been hiding long before tonight. "Elena," Daniel said softly, "what did you mean when you said she'll destroy her?" Elena swallowed hard. She opened her mouth to answer, but before she could speak, the strange girl suddenly moved. Not toward them, but toward the staircase, as if something upstairs had called to her. She didn't run. She walked slowly, deliberately, like she had been here before, like she already knew the layout of the house. Hannah's breath hitched. She reached out with a trembling hand, not to stop the girl, but almost as if she wanted to warn her. Daniel stepped forward quickly. "Stop," he said, his voice firm. "No one goes upstairs." The girl didn't respond. She paused at the first step, her hand hovering over the railing, her eyes fixed on the dark hallway above. And then she whispered her first word since entering the house, so soft that Daniel almost wondered if he imagined it. A name none of them recognized. And suddenly the silence in the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like something else was listening. Daniel felt the room tighten around him as that single whispered name floated into the air, soft, shaky, and unfamiliar. Hannah's breathing grew uneven, and Elena took a step closer to her, as if she feared the girl might collapse. Daniel waited for the strange girl to say something else, but she didn't. She just stood there at the bottom of the stairs, staring upward, her fingers lightly brushing the wooden railing like she was remembering something instead of discovering it. He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Why did you say that name? Who is it?" The girl blinked slowly, but her expression didn't change. She wasn't confused. She wasn't frightened. If anything, she looked certain, like she knew something the rest of them didn't. Before Daniel could ask again, Hannah spoke in a quiet voice he barely recognized. "Dad, she knows things about this house." Her eyes didn't leave the girl, and her tone carried a strange mix of fear and guilt. "She said something earlier, before you came." Daniel's stomach tightened. "What did she say?" Hannah hesitated, then forced the words out. "She said she's been here before." Elena gasped softly. Daniel felt his entire body go cold. That was impossible. He tightened his jaw, trying to make sense of it. Maybe the girl was confused. Maybe she wandered in from the storm and imagined things. But something about her calmness made that explanation feel too easy, too convenient. A sudden thud echoed from upstairs, faint but sharp enough to freeze everyone in place. It wasn't loud, but it sounded purposeful, like someone had dropped something heavy or closed the door with more force than necessary. Daniel's eyes shot upward to the dark hallway, lit only by the soft glow of Hannah's bedroom light. Hannah flinched and grabbed Elena's arm. "It's her," she whispered. "It's the other girl." Daniel turned toward her, his voice steady but urgent. "What other girl?" Hannah swallowed hard, her eyes filling with a fear she had been hiding for days. "The one I told Elena about. The one I keep seeing upstairs." Elena nodded, guilt washing over her face. "Sir, I didn't want to worry you until I was sure. But Hannah has been telling me about hearing footsteps, doors opening, a voice calling her name at night." Daniel stared at them both, the knot in his chest tightening. He had been so busy with work lately that he hadn't noticed how pale Hannah had become, how quiet she'd grown. He'd brushed off her strange moods of stress. never imagining something deeper could be happening inside the house. The strange girl at the staircase slowly turned her head, her eyes meeting Hannah's for a long, heavy moment. Then she whispered the same name again, this time a little clearer, a little more certain. Hannah's face went white. "That's the name I heard last night," she whispered. "The exact same one." Daniel felt something shift in the air, something he couldn't explain. It wasn't danger he could see. It was something he could feel, something creeping beneath the surface of the house he thought he knew. He looked back at the staircase. "No one is going upstairs," he said again, but this time his voice carried more fear than authority. The girl's gaze lifted to the dark hallway, and her next words were barely audible. "You can't stop her," she whispered. "She's already awake." Elena grabbed Hannah protectively, and Daniel took an instinctive step forward, ready to confront whatever waited above them. But before he could move, another sound drifted down. Slow footsteps, steady, deliberate, coming from the end of the hall. Someone, or something, was walking toward the stairs. And Daniel realized this night was only getting started. The footsteps from the hallway grew clearer, each one slow and measured, like whoever was upstairs wanted them to hear. Daniel stood frozen at the base of the stairs as the weight of each step pressed into the quiet house. Hannah clung to Elena, her eyes darting between the strange girl and the shadowy staircase, like she was trapped between two fears she couldn't escape. Daniel tried to steady his breathing. "Everyone stay behind me," he whispered, though his own voice trembled. He felt responsible, not just as a father, but as the one who should have kept his house safe. The place he thought he knew now felt unfamiliar, as if every wall had been hiding something from him. The strange girl didn't move back. She stayed exactly where she was at the bottom of the stairs, her posture firm, her expression unchanged. She seemed to be waiting for something, or someone. When the footsteps paused, she slowly turned her head toward Daniel. "She's coming down," she said softly. "She heard you." Daniel felt a chill crawl across his skin. "Who is she?" he asked again. "What does she want?" The girl didn't answer. Instead, she looked back at the stairs with an expression that didn't match her age, an expression of someone who'd seen too much, someone who carried a truth too heavy for her small frame. A faint creak echoed above them, then another, and then the soft drag of something brushing against the hallway wall. Hannah's breathing hitched. "Dad," she whispered. This was like last night. The same sounds, the same feeling. Her voice cracked with fear, and Daniel's heart twisted painfully. He had dismissed her yesterday when she said she heard someone walking outside her room at 3 a.m. He told her it was the old house settling. He told her it was nothing. And now he wished he had listened more carefully. The hallway light flickered. Once, twice, then steadied again. Daniel took one cautious step up the staircase, but the strange girl suddenly reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Not hard, but enough to stop him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "If you go up there, she'll find you first." The words made no sense, but something about the way she said them made Daniel freeze. Elena let out a shaky breath, trying not to panic. "We should leave," she murmured. "Sir, we can go outside, call someone." But the front door behind them gave a soft, clicking sound, as if the lock had turned on its own. Daniel spun around, staring at the door handle. It hadn't moved by accident. It didn't feel like the storm. It felt intentional. Hannah held tighter onto Elena. "We're not alone," she whispered. A shadow moved at the top of the staircase, just faint enough that Daniel questioned whether he really saw it. But the strange girl stepped back, her eyes lowering slightly, almost like she was preparing herself. Then a soft voice drifted down the stairs, gentle, almost melodic, but carrying a coldness that made Daniel's skin prickle. It spoke the same name the strange girl had whispered earlier, the same name Hannah had heard last night. Daniel's blood ran cold. The shadow shifted, like it was stepping closer. The girl whispered, "She's here." Then the hallway light went out completely, plunging the upstairs into darkness. Daniel, Elena, and Hannah stared up, breathless, waiting, knowing whatever was coming next would change everything. For a moment, the darkness upstairs felt alive. It pressed down like a weight, thick and heavy, swallowing the hallway in a silence so sharp that Daniel could hear the faint tremble of Hannah's breath behind him. The shadow at the top of the staircase no longer moved, but its presence lingered, like someone was standing just out of sight, watching them, deciding what to do next. Daniel tightened his jaw, refusing to let fear pin him in place. He took a cautious step forward, but before he could climb another inch, the strange girl suddenly turned her head sharply toward the window. Her expression shifted for the first time. Fear flickered across her face. "She's not alone," the girl whispered. Daniel froze. "What do you mean she's not alone?" The girl didn't look at him. She kept her eyes fixed on the windows lining the living room wall. Rain streaked down the glass, lightning flashing in quick, silent bursts. For a split second, in the bright white flash of light, Daniel saw something outside, just at the edge of the yard. A silhouette, tall, still, facing the house. Daniel blinked hard, thinking it was his imagination, but the next flash confirmed it. Someone was standing in the rain, unmoving, as if waiting for a signal to approach. Hannah let out a tiny gasp. "Dad, there's someone outside." Elena turned toward the windows, her voice breaking. Who would be out there in the storm? Daniel didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing. This wasn't coincidence. Someone outside, someone upstairs, and a strange girl inside his home who spoke in riddles and warnings. The stakes felt suddenly doubled. Lightning flashed again, this time revealing that the figure outside wasn't alone. A second silhouette stood beside the first, then a third, all facing the house, all completely still. Daniel stepped in front of his family instinctively. "Everyone stay close," he whispered. "No one goes near the windows." The strange girl finally turned to him, her voice trembling now. "They're here because she woke up. When she wakes, the others follow." Daniel's heartbeat hammered against his ribs. "Who are they? What do they want?" But before the girl could answer, a loud knock slammed against the back door. One sharp strike, then another, slow, heavy, demanding. Elena flinched so hard she nearly stumbled. "Someone's at the kitchen door." Hannah shook her head fiercely. "No, that door, it shakes at night. That's the same sound I heard last week. Like someone was standing there, waiting." Daniel felt his pulse spike. How much had he missed? How long had this been happening? The knock came again, this time accompanied by the faint sound of something scraping against the wood, like fingertips dragging downward. Daniel grabbed the edge of the staircase railing, steadying himself. He had two threats now, whatever was moving upstairs and whoever, or whatever, was gathering outside. Then the house's power flickered. Once, twice. The lights dimmed, buzzed, then steadied again, but weakened before, casting long shadows across the room. The strange girl stepped backward, her voice slipping into a whisper. "They're getting closer. When the lights go out completely, they'll come in." Daniel swallowed hard, knowing he had only moments to act, but no idea what direction the real danger was coming from. Upstairs, the shadows shifted again. Outside, the figures took a single step closer to the house. And at the back door, the knocking suddenly stopped, replaced by the quiet click of the doorknob turning. The doorknob turning sent a jolt through Daniel's entire body. He stepped forward instinctively, placing himself between his family and the kitchen hall. The air felt heavier now, charged with something that made the hairs on his arms lift. Hannah pressed her face into Elena's shoulder, trembling, but the strange girl stood eerily calm, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment. A soft creak echoed as the back door eased open. Daniel held his breath, expecting the figures from outside to storm in, but instead, a gust of cold air swept through the hallway. No footsteps followed. No shadow crossed the threshold. Just silence, deep and unsettling. Then a voice drifted down the stairs, soft, familiar, almost gentle. Daniel, his blood froze. It was a voice he hadn't heard in years, one that didn't belong anywhere near this house. He turned slowly toward the staircase as a silhouette stepped into the faint glow of the flickering lights. It was a woman. Her posture was stiff, her eyes unfocused, like she was caught between waking and dreaming. Hannah gasped quietly. Elena covered her mouth. Daniel felt his knees weaken, because the woman looked like someone he knew. Or more painfully, someone he had once loved, his late sister, Emily. But Emily had passed away years ago. This couldn't be her. It wasn't possible. Yet everything in her face, her voice, her faint smile, it all looked exactly like her. The strange girl took a cautious step forward. "It's not her," she whispered gently. "It's what she remembers." Daniel's heart pounded. "What does that mean?" "She wasn't calling your name," the girl continued. "She was calling his." The girl lifted her hand and pointed upstairs, where the hallway now glowed with a faint, warm light. And then Daniel understood. The name they had been hearing whispered wasn't directed at him at all. It was someone else. Someone who had lived here long, before Hannah was even born. Daniel stared at the strange girl. "Who are you?" The girl hesitated, then lowered her eyes. "I lived here once," she said. "Years before you bought the house. Something happened to me. Something everyone forgot. But she didn't forget. She's been trying to show you." The final pieces clicked painfully into place. The footsteps, the voices, the shadows. The house had been carrying a memory no one wanted to acknowledge. Emily's figure, whoever or whatever it truly was, turned her head toward the strange girl. "You're not supposed to be here," she said softly, but her tone held sorrow, not anger. The girl nodded. "I know." Then the lights went out completely. A single second of darkness. When they flicked back on, the woman shaped like Emily was gone. The strange girl had collapsed onto her knees, breathing fast. And the figures outside had vanished from the yard, as if they had never been there at all. Daniel rushed to the girl, steadying her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head faintly. "It's over." She finally let go. Elena exhaled in relief. Hannah clung to her father, tears slipping down her cheeks. But then the girl slowly lifted her eyes, and Daniel felt the room tighten again. "There's something else you should know," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "What?" She pointed to the staircase, the same staircase where the shadow had first appeared. Except now, something small glimmered halfway up, a tiny key, rusted, old, resting neatly on one of the steps, as if placed there deliberately. Daniel picked it up, confusion tightening in his chest. The girl's voice dropped into a trembling whisper. "That's not for my time. That's from someone who hasn't shown herself yet." Daniel held the small, rusted key in the palm of his hand, feeling its surprising weight. For a moment, no one spoke. The house was quiet in a way it hadn't been all night, as if it had finally taken its first deep breath after years of holding everything in. Hannah leaned against him, her trembling slowing, while Elena kept a protective arm around her. The strange girl watched him with tired eyes, the storm's dim light catching the faint shimmer of tears she hadn't let fall. Daniel glanced at the girl. "If this key isn't yours, then whose is it?" She shook her head gently. "I don't know, but it doesn't belong to anything in this house anymore." She took a small step toward him, her voice softening. "Sometimes old places hold on to things because someone, somewhere, wasn't ready to let go. But that doesn't mean it's meant for us to unlock." Her words settled into the room, sinking deeper than he expected. Daniel closed his hand around the key. Even though a part of him wanted answers, solid, simple answers, another part finally understood that not everything needed to be open to be understood. He exhaled slowly and placed the key on the table beside the staircase. "Then it stays here, as it is." The girl nodded, relief washing over her face. Hannah finally found her voice, quiet but steady. "Are they all gone now? Everything we heard? Everything we saw?" The girl gave a small, reassuring smile. "Yes." She let go when she saw you don't carry the past anymore. You're not part of what happened here long ago. She looked up the stairs for a brief moment, her expression soft and thoughtful, and she wanted you to know she wasn't angry. She was only waiting to be remembered. Daniel felt a tightness in his chest ease. He reached out and placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "And what about you? What happens now?" There was a long pause before she answered. "I think I can go where she went. It's quiet there." She hesitated. "I just needed someone to listen first. Someone to see me." Hannah stepped forward then, surprising everyone, and wrapped her arms around the girl. "We saw you. she whispered. We really did. The girl closed her eyes, a soft breath leaving her lips as if a lifelong burden had lifted. Slowly, she stepped back. Her outline seemed to fade slightly in the dim light. Not in a frightening way, but like someone stepping behind a curtain, returning to a place she finally felt ready for. Thank you, she whispered, and with one last warm smile, she simply wasn't there anymore. The house felt lighter, warmer, as though every corner that used to hold shadows now held peace instead. Daniel guided Hannah and Elena to the couch. The storm outside softened into a gentle drizzle, the final crack of thunder rolling far into the distance. They sat quietly for a while, letting the night settle. For the first time in weeks, Hannah looked calm, her small hand resting securely in Daniel's. He looked around the house, the same walls, the same staircase, the same quiet rooms, but nothing felt the same. They hadn't just survived something mysterious. They had understood it, honored it, and allowed it to rest. Later, when Daniel turned off the lights and walked up the stairs with Hannah by his side, the steps no longer creaked with unease. They felt steady again, safe again. The rusted key stayed on the table, untouched. It didn't need to be used. It only needed to be acknowledged. A reminder that even the oldest, quietest stories deserve to be heard, but not reopened. As Daniel tucked Hannah into bed, she whispered, Dad, will tonight ever happen again? He brushed her hair gently and smiled. No, sweetheart, the house is finally at peace, and so are we. And as the last echo of the storm faded into the night, the home that once felt heavy with silence now felt full of something new, something bright, warm, and deeply human. A sense of beginning, not fear. A sense of healing, not haunting.